Hi, my name is Dr. Philip Alexander, and welcome to the World Revolution podcast. And I'm with an amazing person that I met recently, Danielle Laura. Danielle Laura is the CEO of H.O.T, which the abbreviation Honesty, Openness, and Transparency. That's correct? Yeah. You're the former CEO of a medical center, and you went through awakening to become a leadership coach and healer. Now you're just going around America changing people's lives, and I've seen some of the things that you've posted. It's all about truth, and there's a lot of that resonates with me. I felt a really deep connection with that. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so blessed to be here.
How was your New Year's?
Oh, it was awesome. It was good. It was low-key this year, but relaxed and good. How was yours?
Good, yeah. It was with family. It was very chill. Usually I'd go and watch the fireworks and all that. I was at home and I was just looking at the fireworks from home. But yeah, I was quietly praying for a good year this year.
Yes, I feel you.
Well, one of the questions that I ask at the beginning of each podcast is life purpose. It's a question that I ask because for me, everything that I'm doing is honoring what my soul came here to do, and I feel like that is to enlighten myself and be a light for people around me. What do you feel is your life purpose? How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I definitely feel my life purpose is to positively affect and change as many people as I can, shifting them from the grasp of what has held them back to showing them what is possible, and being able to live a completely lit up life of service that is in total alignment with their core values.
You've got a Christian background, don't you?
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was just reading up on your content, and I'm really interested. Like, how did you develop your beliefs as you've evolved?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up, in a very traditional Christian home, and really made my faith my own a few years ago, and really diving deep into what are the beliefs that I've been told my whole life? Like, what are the things that the church, right, wants you to know or believe? And where are the legalistic values there, and then where are the values that I definitely align with and that I feel are true. And through that, I think there has been such a shift in even opening up my spiritual gifting in full force. Because a lot of times in the Christian community, this isn't all over, but I live in the South. I live in, Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is the belt buckle of the Bible Belt, where
Right.
things can sometimes be, pretty closed-minded, and very like legalistic in certain areas. And my whole thing is, God is love, the whole exemplification of love. And if we were having all of these rules and demands on people and judgment and hatred towards those who simply don't believe what we do, is that really love? Is that really a representation of Christ? So through that, really delving deep into what's really important and what's not, and what really is faith and how do we make that our own, was really important to me. And it really guides everything that I do now in my life. Every decision I make, how I work with my clients, how I live my life personally, are all of these things in accordance to my core values and my core truths, and living that morality out in a way that is authentic to me. And I help my clients do that as well.
How did you, what was the first inkling of your calling as you were growing up, and what were some life things, changes that you went through that changed your perspective to being the person that you are today?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So growing up, I always knew I was called to the healing profession, right? I didn't know that I was a healer then. I know this now, but I was always called to the healing profession. I wanted to be a pediatric oncologist. So I worked from the time I was 16 onward in the medical field, doing various things, and became a nurse. And then I got my master's in counseling and worked with the cancer end of things on counseling, and then ran a medical center, right? So I always wanted to make a positive change in people's lives in a real way. For me, what it came down to was beyond just the physical aspect of helping people like physically in their life or their medical well-being, but more of a holistic approach of mind, body, soul. Because I realized how much of an effect that had in my own life, that everything, the health issues that I was having at one point in my life, right, I think were very spiritually related to different stress and things I was carrying in my life of what I should be doing, what was expected of me. And I really lived my life basically trying to please everybody else. And I had never really stopped to ask myself, is this my soul's purpose? Is this my soul-driven mission? Is this really what I want? Am I happy? Right? And I liked what I was doing. I genuinely did. But it was like I wanted more. I wanted deeper. I wanted to make that mind, body, soul impact in people's lives in a very tangible way that for me, I didn't feel I could make in the four walls of corporate, basically. And so that's what kind of led me into, starting my own business as well.
Well, what was it about? Because you mentioned you worked as you were managing a medical center, was it? And
Yes.
What were the challenges that you were facing from being able to express yourself?
Mm-hmm. On the administrative side, I would say if in the position when I was running the medical center, there was so much business, right? So much business involved in medical care that I was not seeing patient care at the forefront. It was basically, physicians who just wanted to make money. They didn't really actually care about the patients. They didn't care about the well-being of things in the future. It was about what can we do to make quick money now? What kind of surgeries or extra things can we do to just get money in the door, to, meet the governmental standards, the bare minimum of those, and just, I hate to say, kind of scam people, right? I hated that. I could not stand the thought of, one, people not getting the utmost care that they really needed, right? And most certainly, two, being taken advantage of in such an area of their health. That was something that I could not continue to feel like I was a part of in any way.
Yeah. I've like I've as you know I've got a medical background myself, and I had this calling. I wanted to go and help people, and then when I actually got into the hospital system, I felt like it was more of a band-aid approach, and
Right.
I didn't. When I started developing my spiritual self, started having these beliefs that perhaps we could actually heal ourselves through our mind. And so, with that contradiction, I actually left the field. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Or I feel what you're saying. It's very hard to be yourself when there is constraints around you to work with. Although there is no right or wrong way to do it. Um,
Right.
yeah. Um, you're very much an intuitive. I've seen like some posts and this is a word that many people talk about. That they're intuitive. What does it mean to be intuitive for you?
Yeah, for me specifically, like you said, a lot of people have different ideas of this. For me specifically, being intuitive, I think, is being so, number one, highly self-aware within yourself, right? Knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your actual gifting is, the purpose you bring to this world, your mission and your why, and everything that you do. From there, I think when you know those things and you have that level of self-awareness, you can develop your spiritual and intuitive gifting even further. So, your connection to God, the things that you would know, you intuitively know that you wouldn't know in your own mind or heart, right? It's that deeper connection of knowing without logic, right? The knowing that defies logic, something you can't necessarily explain, but you know that you know because that connection is so strong.
How would you because with intuition it's more it's would you say it's more of a feeling, like it's as an empath, like you sort of vibe an environment or a situation or a person, and you follow what your heart is telling you? Is that in a way? Because I've sometimes there's difficulty for me in knowing the difference between discernment and judging the situation? How would you be able to tell the difference?
That's a great question. So I think discernment comes from a strong intuition. If you're not listening to self, if you're one, not self-aware, right, then if you're not aware within yourself, you're not going to be aware of what's going on around you either. So I think the more self-aware you are and the more intuitive you are, your discernment level is through the roof, right? Nothing gets past you, right? And I think it's one of those situations too with intuition. As you develop it, you realize different types of spiritual gifts that you have within intuition. So somebody might feel something, right? Like you might be very clairsentient where you have a feeling about something. You may enter a room, you just vibe with someone or the situation, whatever, right? You might be very claircognizant, which, you get information just coming into your brain, right? And you have no idea where that thought came from, but you just know that you know, kind of a feeling.
Right.
You may be very clairvoyant. You may have images come through or like see flashes of things in front of you that are giving you guidance. Or you may be clairaudient. You may hear things, right? You may feel like you're hearing audible voices and you may think you're crazy, right? And that's really your intuition. It's your guidance system. And so I think people get tripped up that their intuition almost throws them for a loop a lot of their lives because they're feeling or experiencing some, if not all of these aspects of intuition. And they just attribute it to thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just crazy. Or, oh, I just thought that out of nowhere. Or, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I really felt that. And they kind of underrate their intuition. And they don't realize it's actually guiding them.
I've got my theories on how these things may be possible. What is your understanding of these phenomenons being able to connect in that way with people?
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense on a logical level, right? You can't explain it. It makes no logical sense.
No.
And I think so. I think for intellectuals, it's extremely hard to like wrap our minds around, right? And for me, that was the case for me, like most of my life. Like I super underrated my intuition because I'm like, this doesn't make sense. How would I just know this? There's no way. How would I just feel this? There's no way. It must be me. And I think there comes a point when there are too many like synchronicities in your life, right? You see things time and time again. You realize, oh my gosh, all those times I was thinking this or felt this way, I was actually right? And you start seeing this evidence over and over and over in your life to where your faith just opens up and you realize, you know what, like there's got to be something here. I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't make any logical sense, but I just know that it is true. And I think that's the whole essence of faith.
Yeah, I suppose I'm a lot more logical in how I understand things. I understand that perhaps our brain also like sends signals out to the universe, and it seems to be through our thought, a combination of our thoughts or feeling. But even to tangibly describe what it is, it doesn't give it justice. But yeah, I've experienced things myself where like I'll just notice situations around me, and I'll just be receptive or observe it. But then sometimes it can trigger you, and then it causes you to look within and to try and heal parts of yourself. What do you find is the key to tapping into your powers? For me, one of them is allowing yourself to be vulnerable and really just letting go. I think that's part of the course that I mentioned before with honesty, openness, and transparency. How do you go about sharing that or explaining that with your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the 3 pillars of everything I focus on with my clients is honesty, openness, and transparency. So I say, let's be hot, right? So H.O.T, that's what that stands for. And that first begins within yourself. You have to be honest, open, and transparent. Get really raw and real with yourself first. Of like, one, just basically like, who are you? Who do you believe you are? Who are you actually? What do you really believe? Are your beliefs because they're from your soul and you truly believe them to be true, or these things that you've been told your whole life, right? So number one, identify like identity. Who are you really? What do you believe? What do you feel your gifting is? How do you want to make a difference in this world? And when you have that basis of knowing who you are and being grounded in the truth of that, it affects how you show up in every other relationship in your life. And until you can be truly honest, open, and transparent within yourself, you can't be with anybody else. So this is why people experience such massive unfulfillment as they're going through life, because they're not acknowledging what they really need and want and who they really are. They haven't stopped to truly ask themselves and be honest, open, and transparent about, who am I? What am I doing here? Am I happy? Why am I doing what I do? They just do it. It's almost like people are living on autopilot, right? So I think the very first key that I work on with my clients is that relationship to self. And then from there, based on who you are and your values and where you're going, how does that make you show up in the world? And how do you relate to others because of that?
But how would you be honest? Like, how do you honor that honesty, that self-honesty with yourself? Like, is that just bringing awareness to what you're feeling in the moment?
Yes, it is bringing an awareness to your own needs and your desires in every area of your life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. What is it that you need? What are the non-negotiables that you need in each of those areas of your life? And then what are the things that you desire? And how do you mesh your head and your heart to where you can bring them both to life, right? And actually be fulfilled, truly fulfilled on a mind, body, soul level.
You talk a lot about truth as well. I'm curious to know, like, what your understanding definition of truth is. For me, I got this understanding that there's truth in all things, as everything is an emanation from the one source, and it's all reflective of each other. But then on another level, there is one truth that you could say is the source itself. And in that truth, everyone, eventually we're all like, you could say, like, it's as true as breathing oxygen, that no one can deny that that's actually what the truth is. How would you, what would be your description of what that universal truth might be? Or what is your definition of truth, just in general?
Yeah, my definition of truth. That's a good question. I've talked about this a lot, but I've never been asked that direct question. My definition of truth, I would say the acknowledgement of what is.
Yeah.
Not the perception of what we want it to be, not what it is to make it a more pleasing reality, but what it is. Stripped emotions away from it all at the surface level, at the core. What is it? What is truth? That's what how I would explain it.
So what is that? You would say it's in a way it's God, or the ever expanding source, or no words could really give justice to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of enlightened beings that speak on this a lot. They command this vibration, and what they say is it resonates with truth, and that feeling of truth it's connected to, in my experience, it's like following that intuition. But in that way, it's about, I would say it's about really developing your oneness with all things, and not being in separation.
Sure.
And developing that to a point where you're just completely one with everything, which is, it takes a lot of work. I've got a few quotes here, which I loved. If your dreams don't scare you, they aren't big enough. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think when we set sometimes goals or dreams for ourselves, intentions, whatever word resonates with you, right? When we have these dreams, we tend to, as in, I would say the population as a whole, a very generalized whole, we want to make sure we actually achieve those dreams, right? So we kind of aim the bar pretty low. And it's like sometimes these things are really attainable, and then we get them and we're still unfulfilled. because that wasn't really our dream, if that makes sense, right? It was like the dream that we thought was attainable versus the dream that it scares the daylights out of you to think about whether or not you can actually achieve that, because that means you're getting out of your comfort zone. And that means in order to do that, you have to use all that you are, all of your gifting, all of your experience, all of the personality, the talent, everything that is within you. And I think if you're not using all that you have to work towards your dream, then what are you really doing? Then are you settling?
Yeah.
It's a question.
Is that's probably what a lot of the planet people are doing, would you say? It's that most of the population of the planet following the general 9 to 5, similar to what just being born into a system and following what we've been told through school, and it is hard to break out of that, isn't it?
Very. I mean, and that's where, you know, being honest, open, and transparent with yourself comes in. Are you doing what you really want to do? Is this life really lighting you up? Is there something else? You know, I mean, you have to determine that. Only you in the depths of your own soul can determine that.
What sets your soul on fire? Because I've seen you post a lot about that as well, and I loved it. Because that's what it's about, isn't it? Doing what you're most passionate about. There's nothing else that really matters in life.
Right. So to me, setting my soul on fire means being completely lit up, totally fulfilled in every way possible, knowing like this is it. Like I am so excited. I'm so passionate. I'm so like overwhelmingly grateful. All of like the greatest positive vibes possible, right? Like when your soul is on fire, you are just lit up from the inside out.
There's what is your interpretation of there's a picture of Jesus and he's got like this heart and it's got a flame around it, and my definition of that is sort of what you're saying, like soul on fire, or that passion, that zest for everything that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you follow that burning passion in your heart, that is what leads to ultimate and true and lasting fulfillment in your life.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
What is the soul?
What is the soul?
Yeah.
Man, these are intense questions. What is the soul? Okay, so, you know, the soul essence of you, the being, who you be at your core. Who are you? Who do you be? The essence of you.
Where does that come from?
I think it comes from your spirit. The spirit, soul essence of who you be.
These are things that fascinate me. Like as I was going through my awakening process, it's like, what was I doing before I was born? Like if I'm experiencing life right now, that must mean that I must have existed somewhere in some place. And I believe that essence holds memories of what experiences might feel like somewhere in that vibration or in that energy, and then it just like comes into this physical illusionary reality, which I say illusion like you could say it's like a holographic. Some scientists have broken down what our reality might be, and that it actually is an illusion, although it looks very real. But there's just particles of light that are just moving at incredible speeds to a point where everything looks physical. And yeah, I've got this idea that the energy of all of the experiences that we've had, perhaps through other holographic experiences, has just been brought up into this reality and this life at this moment in time. Why that would be significant, I feel, is because there are all these historical stories about humanity, and we spoke about this briefly on our call, But yeah, just like there's biblical stories, there's stories in the Hindu texts, there's stories about Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient Greece and all over the world, even stories we may not have heard of so much. But I feel like all of those stories, we must have been a part of it in some way. And all of a sudden, we're here in the 21st century. It's a completely different world to what it may have looked like in the past. We're trying to remember or figure out what all of it is. But I believe that there's something so profound, so amazing in it that we will be discovering as the years go on, or as experiences keep unfolding. Well, yeah, that's why I love these questions. My podcasts are a little bit different from the usual ones.
No, I like it.
Thank you. More broader question. Healing. This is a quote I picked up. Healing isn't about changing who you are. It's about changing how you feel about who you are. We did mention that. We spoke about that. We must not confuse the command to love with the disease to please. That's actually something that resonated with me a lot, because that's something that I've been doing for the most of my life. Always wanting to make people happy around me. But I found that I was people pleasing to maintain a certain level of peace around my environment, rather than actually taking responsibility and standing in my own truth. How do you, because that's one of your quotes. Yeah, what is your explanation of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that so many of us get caught in this trap of, we think that by loving others means that we need to just please them or please everyone or circumstantially please what is around us, right? We think that that is love, to the point of our own destruction, to the point of saying no to ourselves over and over and over, to where we begin these very self-sabotaging, self-sacrificing patterns that ultimately lead to burnout and to depletion. If we are not full and we're not giving from a full vessel, we're not actually giving love. We're simply spinning our wheels. And there's a huge difference there. And I think when you get down to really understanding that, you can understand that really pleasing is a disease, right? When we are so focused on simply pleasing everyone or everything around us, to where our own soul is silenced and suffered because of that, we're not doing anyone any favors. It's actually causing destruction.
Because my background is Catholic, and my family go to church every Sunday religiously. And my mother always talks about the need to sacrifice. And have you experienced in your environment as well, especially coming from the south part of America, where it is very religious and very Christian based? Is there that theme where there's a lot of guilt and just following? Don't want to actually define what it is that's being taught, but I feel like it doesn't resonate with the highest truth. Things like sacrifice in a way is like saying I'm actually guilty for being my true self. What have your experiences with that been like?
Yeah, sacrificing is saying on a basic level, it's saying I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy, but they are worthy. Right? And that breeds this horrific culture, especially for women, especially being like moms and, nurturers and the caretakers for their families and everything else. It's like they have this mega guilt. Several of my friends who are moms, I'm not a mom, but several of my friends, talk all the time about mom guilt, right? It's a real thing, feeling like, God forbid they take a shower and take 15 minutes to themselves because, the kids' sandwiches need to be made and this kid needs to go to practice, or this, dinner has to be made, or whatever, everybody needs to get everywhere else, that their basic needs like showering are not being met. right? Their basic intrinsic need. And so yeah, this guilt of sacrifice is a real thing. It's very real. And so much so to the point where people are sacrificing their actual basic needs of survival, which leads, again, like I said earlier, to more depletion, more burnout. When you're depleted and you're burnout, you're not bringing your best self. You're living in kind of this lower vibrational frequency. You're getting it stressed easier, right? You may lash out at people. You're not yourself. You're just not yourself because you're not giving from that full cup. You are a completely depleted vessel with not even any steam. So how much can you really be giving? Yeah, it's real.
How, like, when you speak to those strong beliefs that some people hold, I mean, how do you express yourself, or when you're in conversation with that? Do you still participate in church services and that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I do still go. I still do to participate in church services and so forth. I think that there are some people who are going to be so set in their ways of thinking and what they believe to be right and true, and that's their prerogative, right? Just like it's my prerogative to be more, expanded in my consciousness and so forth. So, to each their own. You have to come at it realizing you're not always going to agree with everyone. Everyone is entitled to their opinion and their beliefs and their core values, and just understanding the acceptance of, just because they don't believe what I believe, just because they don't see things the way I do, doesn't necessarily mean I'm right and they're wrong. It's a matter of opinions. We're different, and they can live their life the way they want, and I'm going to live it in the way that I feel is true for myself. So I think taking ego out of it, right? I think taking ego out of a situation and just seeing it for what it is rather than what you want it to be.
There's this concept, or it's not a concept, it's love. What is your definition of love? Like unconditional love, because that in a sense is what you're talking about, right? It's like holding space for people, understanding where they're coming from, but at the same time not compromising yourself. What is it that how do you see unconditional love to be for people and yourself?
I'm sorry, what was the last part of the question? How do I see it feel?
Yeah, for yourself and for people.
Okay. So I think unconditional love within yourself is meaning that you are going to be so grounded into your core truths and your vision and what is so true for you, and giving yourself grace, not beating yourself up if you don't do something exactly as you would have thought you wanted it to be done, right? Or how somebody expected that to be of you, but being so unwaveringly true and unapologetic to your core beliefs, right? Unconditionally loving yourself, good, bad, and ugly, quote unquote, not putting labels on anything, right? But truly being accepting of the fullness of who you were created to be, right? We have light and we have shadow. It's all part of it. It's all beauty. But we tend to categorize certain things as bad or dark or good or light, when it's really all a part of who we are. And getting to that place of unconditional love within ourselves is how we show that love to others. It's how we cast away the judgment that would have otherwise been there had we not have had that own unconditional love for ourselves.
It's really hard sometimes to be in that space, especially like I've found that sometimes I'm in this amazing place of like I'm one with everything, and trying to be as unconditional as I can, and then all of a sudden this life will just throw me a situation. It's like, deal with that, and then I'd find myself judging and then trying to understand the intensity of the energy to then allow myself to embrace it even more, and to merge myself into it, to become one with it, and see that actually everything is a part of me. How do you deal with situations where you yourself feel, if you ever do get triggered by the intensity of energies? For example, for me, like I've had I think people in my family, especially, there's some characters in my family that really do test me. I mean, I love everyone and I must have chosen them to be part of my life. But that doesn't take away the challenges that arise from it. Um, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So what is the question?
The question is, how do you deal with when you're really triggered, like to a point where there's people in your life that have so much just an intenseness about them that it may just be something that's coming up for yourself. How do you
Mhm.
deal with that? How do you sit with that and really honor your own truth and be your freed self
Yeah.
in that
So
moment?
yeah. So our triggers are our biggest clues as to what is happening on an internal state within ourself, right? Because if when we're triggered, it brings up something that we have either not healed from or something that is not aligned with who we are and who we be, the intrinsic of our core values. And so it's like butting heads, right? So in that moment, whenever I'm triggered, I take a step back and I give myself that space, right? I allow myself to be quiet with myself, to sit with myself and ask, why did that bother me? Why did that trigger me? And I pinpoint, I can pretty immediately, and this happens over time, you can kind of build, strengthen this muscle, but the more you do this, the more easily it is to come to you. A moment, I'll be like, what was the actual trigger? Right? Because often what we think is the trigger is not the actual trigger. It's like a surface level trigger below the real deal, right? And so it's sometimes asking the why behind the why. So why was I triggered? Okay, so that happened, but why did I feel that way? Well, why is it what that person said trigger me in this way? So being very inquisitive with yourself is what I recommend. This is what I do. And from there, it comes right away. You'll be able to figure out, oh, well, that triggered me because there's a part of my own heart that hadn't worked through that from my past, right? Or there's a part of that I haven't really healed from. What extra healing do I need to do in my own life to where I'm not triggered by that, right? Or is it the simple acknowledgement of, I was triggered by that because that is so out of alignment with what I believe that it bothered me, right? And that can happen too.
Right. So you would say for those that do because this happens with everyone really. Um, this is what we're all dealing with. Like, there's always something that comes into our life that will test our ability to live in our most passionate, expressed way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is to actually ask the question, why am I feeling? And just digging into that until you actually um, get to the core of what that would mean.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then allowing yourself to bring the awareness to it to see how it's actually serving you.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Uh, well, I've got a round of questions here. Some of them are fun, some of them are interesting. uh,
Okay.
what is your interpretation of aliens or extraterrestrials?
Whoa. Well, I think nothing is out of the realm of possibility.
Mm,
Could there be aliens? Sure. Could there be other extraterrestrial activity? Sure. Not really something I focus on, to be honest.
okay, fair enough. I ask everyone this question. I get mixed responses. Um, uh, do you believe in past lives?
The former me would have said no. The me today would say yes, because I think there is this, we kind of remember, right? We have these ineffable knowings or this ineffable rememberings of things that are so familiar to us. It's like we know, almost like we have been there before. We've experienced it before, right? I think the term, an old soul comes from this as well, right? Someone who has lived many, many lifetimes, and they are so wise beyond their years now in this lifetime, right? There's no logical explanation to that. They might not have gone through any massive amount of thing in this lifetime, right? But their knowledge and the depths of that their soul knows and recognizes is from many, many lifetimes ago.
Love that answer. What is your definition of consciousness?
I think, so consciousness to me is getting to a point of total awareness and detachment from the ego to be able to see things and people, circumstances as they are, not as we are.
Okay. What would you define the ego to be?
So the ego is basically your attachment to what is right or wrong, like quote unquote right or wrong necessarily, right? Your ego is a thing that comes in to try to protect you and keep you safe from making decisions that are really actually in your highest path. Right. It's basically the thing that tries to keep you stuck, not in a bad way. It tries to protect you, right? It tries to come in. Its motive is to protect us. But by protecting us, it actually can really hinder us from taking that next step in our life and getting to that next level, whether that be professionally, in a relationship, anything.
Yeah. What would you tell yourself as a 20-year-old if you could go back in time with what you know now?
That's good. I would say, don't stress out over all of the little insignificant things that seem to be really significant right now. Know that you are limitless and that truly anything is possible for you. And if it doesn't work the first time, that doesn't mean it's not meant for you. It means that you can become innovative and find another way. And if it is on your heart, it is there for a reason, because it is connected to your purpose and you need to follow it at all costs.
What advice would you give to someone who is going through a similar journey as you did?
I say if there is any aspect of your life, if there's any doubt in your life or unfulfillment of where you are, you need to have that defining moment in your life where you get raw and real with yourself, become honest, open, and transparent. Ask yourself the hard questions you've never asked before and determine, is this the trajectory of my life that I want to live? Is this really my soul's highest purpose? Because if you're not feeling fulfilled and you're longing for more and something feels off or it feels like it's missing, that's because it is. And you owe it to yourself to discover that.
Why do you think it's, do you think it must be hard for us to actually ask those honest questions, right? Why do you think it is that way? Why is it so hard for us to actually be honest with ourselves?
I think we're so in it, right? We're so inundated in the moment of our own mess, basically, that we can't see past it. So sometimes we're just so stuck in that moment, and it takes someone else. It takes an unbiased third party sometimes to come in and ask the tough questions for us, right? Which is why mentorship and coaching is so priceless. Because sometimes we are so in our own mess that we can't see out of it. We can't see a greater picture. We can't ask ourselves a question and have an unbiased answer because we're so inundated in our own stuff in that moment.
We have to get out of our own way sometimes.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we have these limiting beliefs as well that we've carried with us our entire life as truth. That's not actually true, right? It's what somebody else has told us to believe or told us to be right or wrong that we've just taken on as our own that have really hindered us. And until we really take a step back and realize, do I believe this because I really believe this, or is this because what I've been told my whole life, right? And we are able to disconnect from those patterns and rewire a new pattern. That's really important.
What 3 books influenced you most and why?
That's a good one. I would say The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is the first thing that comes to mind. That helped me tremendously actually in my decision to leave corporate and to pursue like my highest purpose, my zone of genius, right? And then from there, in the journey of entrepreneurship, all of the different upper limits that I faced, he talks about brilliantly in his book. I highly, highly recommend that book to anybody. But I would say that would be a book that really helped me as a catalyst on my entrepreneurial journey, the decision to do that. A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. That's another one that comes straight to my mind. That was really pivotal for me during times of a devastating heartbreak in my life, and overcoming that in a point where, in a healthy way, that wasn't going to add distraction to my life, but rather healing. So that was really important. Gosh, there's so many. I'm trying to pick. Okay, so the next thing coming to my mind is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. It's just real life truth, right? The spirituality behind what you're doing, who you are, and really knowing that you're limitless, and anything is possible for you.
What is your greatest strength?
I feel my greatest strength is being able to connect with others on a deeper level than just surface level, being able to really see into the core essence of who someone is and pull out all of the greatness that is within them that they maybe couldn't have seen for themselves.
And what is your greatest challenge?
I would say what I'm overcoming, the greatest challenge in my past, I think, has been overanalyzing, perfectionism, people pleasing, right? And so that is something that I'm overcoming and have to work towards daily, of identifying those triggers and things that could lead down to that path again.
Who's your biggest inspiration?
Ooh, one person? Man. Biggest inspiration. You know, I'm going to go wide here. I'm going to say, in general, the people in this world who are making their dreams happen and eliminating excuses. They're not letting anything stop them or hold them back, but they are paving the way. If they fall, they get right back up and do it again. And they don't let anything hinder what they know to be true in their soul. And they make it happen.
What is one superpower you would like to have, and why?
Ooh, one superpower.
If you don't have it already.
Right, the one that I don't already have, right. I would say, I think it would be amazing to teleport yourself wherever you need to go in an instant. Don't have to drive, don't have to fly, just be there.
Hey, Einstein said that it's possible, so who knows?
He did.
Well, this is the final question, and I always end this with it's a profound one. If today was the last day on Earth, what would you do?
That is a beautiful question. I believe that I would want to spend quality time with the ones closest to me, doing something that we can cherish forever. Whatever that is, with those people, being around those that I love in my last moments, I think would be the best.
Thank you, Danielle Laura. I just love the energy that everything that you share. There's just something special about you, so I'm very grateful that you've come on the show and to speak with me. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, till next time.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.